There we go.
All right. Well, welcome
Perfect.
everybody. Thanks for coming. It's late, I know. I just wanted to maybe start with why we are meeting, who I am for people that I have not met. A lot of you I've met before in one-on-one. Thanks for coming in again. Um, my name is Irina Koifman. I am a nurse practitioner and doctor of nursing practice. And I have been passionate and well, probably passion is the word I'm looking for within chronic care management space for years. I took care of patients who are chronically ill. I took care of big teams who were caring for patients who are chronically ill. And once I've learned more about what Medicare really reimburses providers for to provide chronic care management, I became even more passionate to bring this out to the open because many providers, many nurse practitioners and doctors that I talked to did not know that CCM exists. And if they did, they said, oh, that, I tried 2 years ago, I wasn't really reimbursed well, it's not worth my time. And so in 2020, when Medicare made some significant changes, it became a lot more lucrative for providers to do it. And I always say, we all do it. We all take calls and talk to our patients and spend time outside of the office visits, but very few people know that you can actually bill for it. And so I decided to create this group on Facebook and now LinkedIn get um, to get kind of like-minded people to join and have conversations, to partner together, to help each other out. I do all of this pro bono, and then I do consult if somebody wants to hire me kind of, after the fact. But as much as I can, I do this for free just to kind of pay back to my community and to make sure that your patients are being taken care of as well. So with that being said, let me just start sharing my screen, and I'm going to run through or walk through, probably not run, a CCM basics. So I will, sorry, I can't chew gum and talk at the same time. I will assume that you guys know nothing about CCM. So for some of you, it might be basic information. For some, it might be initial information. And so please, I do want this to be more of a dialogue. Stop me at any time. Don't wait for for the end of the presentation to ask your questions. Ask me questions. But again, I'm assuming that you know very little or nothing. So um, I do want to ask, and we're probably not going to have time to everybody to talk, but if you don't mind, please, if you can put in the chat your name, your specialty, are you NP, pharmacist, nurse, MA, what state do you live in, and what questions do you have about TCM? Ken is going to capture everything. I will answer questions later. We also want to do, question it, like frequently asked questions, maybe that we can post later. But also it will be very good for us to just kind of gather a little bit more information about the group. So if we'll have time at the end, maybe we will, you will talk, but at least if you can start putting that in the chat, that would be fantastic. So today we'll review CCM. I do want to make sure I'm going to caveat that to say we're talking about chronic care management, not as a concept of disease management or how to manage a chronically ill patients. We'll talk about chronic care management or CCM as it pertains to Medicare, CMS requirements and reimbursement. And we'll go over the scope of services that required to bill for CCM through Medicare. The learning objectives, I really want you to come out of this understanding what Medicare requires you to have in order to bill. I want you to be able to identify what gaps you can close by engaging patient in CCM. We'll assess financial and quality implication that you will achieve by providing CCM, and hopefully you'll recognize the importance of chronic care management when it relates to value-based payment. Oh, and my slide is not, hold on one second. There you go. Okay. So very briefly, I want to tell you kind of what I told you before is that Medicare in 2015, Medicare said, well, we started want to reimbursing our providers. When I talk about providers, it's somebody that can bill Medicare for services. So usually it's a physician or a non-physician provider, meaning non-physician providers are considered nurse practitioners, physician assistants, nurse midwife, and clinical nurse specialist. So Medicare said, we want to reimburse providers for spending extra time caring for your complex chronically ill patients. And they came out with few CCM codes, which what I told you about, some of the providers started doing, and then they said, it's not worth, we're getting it rejected. It pays very, very little. They're asking us too much paperwork. It's not even worth our time and money. So they really didn't do it. In 2019, Medicare did a big study, and the study really showcased that patients who were enrolled in CCM had much better quality indicators. They were using healthcare resources better. They were not being the readmission rate dropped, the admission to the hospital dropped, medication adherence was better. And Medicare said, look, there's only 9 million people 3 million people who is only 9% of patients that we think would qualify for CCM and TCM services. So we have this data that shows that the quality is really through the roof with these people who are engaged in CCM, but there is a lot more people that need to be in CCM. So Medicare added few things to make it more lucrative for you guys, which is extra codes for billing. They did increase a little bit of the fee schedule. They added another code that's called primary care management. So now they said, we understand that as a primary care provider, majority of your patients have 2 or more chronic diseases. But what if you're a specialist? What if you're endocrinologist and you're only dealing with, patients who are diabetic? I can imagine that many of them don't have hypertension and hyperlipidemia and obesity, but let's say they do and it's only one condition, they can't bill for it. So Medicare said, well, we're going to come up with this primary care management. Oh, it's not primary, I'm sorry, it's I'm saying primary. Sorry, I have to correct this. It'll come to me in a second. But the PCM code to really help specialists or even PCPs to manage somebody that only has one chronic condition. And they also said that before you couldn't bill CCM with the transitional care management. So if your patient came out of the hospital, you see them within 7 days or 14 days, and you bill for a transitional care management business visit. Then Medicare said, well, we understand that you can still do CCM on top of TCM, a lot of acronyms. So they basically made a lot of really good changes for providers. And so in 2020, the CCM had become a lot more lucrative, as I said, and a lot more people became interested in providing CCM. So let's talk about the nuts and bolts of CCM. So eligibility. In order of patient, the only 2 things that patient has to have in order to qualify for CCM. Number 1 is they have to, their chronic conditions have to expected to last at least 12 months or until the death of the patient, which is hence, the chronic condition. So this is almost like, like duh, like why is it even there? But basically Medicare is saying that you wanted to care for people who are like truly chronic. And so you have to say, yes, patient has 2 chronic conditions, and yes, they're going to last at least 12 months or until patient will pass away. What Medicare has example of what chronic conditions are, and you can see that on the left side of your screen. Please note that these are just example that Medicare provided, but they're very specifically said many times over and over again that any chronic condition that patient has, as long as it's 2, will qualify. So this is almost irrelevant, but anyway, they had a table, so I wanted to share the table with you. So remember, it's 2 chronic conditions that would last for a year or until they die. And then the patient is at significant risk of death or acute exacerbation or decompensation due to those chronic conditions. I want to pause for a second and see if you guys have any questions about patient eligibility. Okay, so then provider responsibilities are a lot more than patient. So patient, we said, two chronic conditions, last at least a year or until patient dies, and really has a significant risk of patient being decompensated or have a functional decline. But as a provider, in order for you to bill, you have to see the patient within the past 12 months. So let's just say you have a huge practice, 3,000 patients, and you wanted to enroll all your eligible patients into CCM. If you haven't seen patient Johnson within 12 months from today's date, you cannot even call the patient to consent for CCM. You can call the patient to get them to be seen by you again, but know that in order for patient to be enrolled in CCM, you have to see them as a provider within the past 12 months. You have to use the Medicare certified EHR technology. So for anybody that does, I know that very few people, but still some of the home call providers use paper charts. They can't enroll people in CCM. You have to use the certified EHR technology. You have to say that you provide 24/7 access and continuity of care. And really what it means is, you have to give your patient your cell number, after hour number, some way that the patient can get in touch with you. If you're very clearly say on your in your policies and procedures on your website and on your cards that you give out to patients that I am only available from 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, Medicare might say, well, you're not providing 24/7 access to you. So make sure that in your either consent or somewhere else you do say that patient was aware that I provide 24/7 access, by patient has my cell phone number or something. I can walk you through that, but make sure that that's what Medicare wants, is they don't want patient to call you at 7 p.m. to say that they're not feeling well and you're not picking up the phone and patient goes to the ER. That's basically the reason why they want patients in CCM to have that. You have to obtain patient consent. We'll talk about consent later. You have to establish, monitor, and revise comprehensive care plan. This is very important, and I'll touch on that later. Just know that I did talk to some providers who said, well, I'm not billing for care plan. I don't want to bill for it, or I billed for it before, I never got paid. I'm not billing for care plan, therefore I'm not writing it. And my answer is always is, well, then you cannot bill for CCM. Your patient has to have a care plan that you have to write. It doesn't matter if you're billing for it or not. But if when Medicare come and say, okay, well, let me check, patient Johnson, um, you've been billing for CCM for that patient. Where's the care plan? If you don't have a care plan, they'll take the money back. So part of the CCM is you as or provider has to write a comprehensive care plan. You have to manage care transition, which means that if your patient is um, getting discharged from the hospital, going to rehab, assisted living, back home, you as a provider has to manage the transitions of care and you have to document it. And as I told you before, now you can bill CCM together with a transitional care visit, which is great because before they said you couldn't. You have to coordinate home and community-based care. This is almost like seriously, that's what we do all day long. We coordinate everything, but Medicare is very specific. So in your documentation, you should anytime that you coordinate with home health, DME, adult daycare, any communications that you have, you should document it in your care plan so you can showcase that you are coordinating the community-based care. You have to provide comprehensive care management, which is the everything, including disease management, coordination of care, um, simple, education to the patient. This is all considered comprehensive care management. Medicare doesn't really have the definition of what it is, but sometimes, like I had calls from nurses who wanted to get into the CCM business, and they talk about CCM as the comprehensive care management that they provide through either insurance company or through maybe churches. And I always tell them that the comprehensive care management, it's part of CCM, but it's not CCM. CCM is everything that I'm telling you about. It's care planning, it's transition of care, it's it's comprehensive care management, but this is part of the CCM. And in order to bill any patient for CCM, you have to spend at least 20 minutes non-face-to-face time per month. Again, I'll talk about that a little later, but know that if you have a patient that maybe this month you could not spend 20 minutes. I can't imagine why, because it's not necessarily telephone conversations. You can revise your care plan, you can verify and reconcile medications, you can attempt to call patient didn't pick up the phone. But if you have time documented that you spent 20 minutes, you bill for it. But let's just say you spent only 15 minutes. It doesn't mean that the patient is automatically kind of discharged from CCM. What it means is you cannot bill for this month. And what it also means is you cannot transfer that time to the next month. You can't say, but you know what, on May 30th, I talked to the patient for 15 minutes, and that was the only thing I did. On June 1, I looked at the care plan, reconcile medication. There was another, I don't know, 5 minutes. So can I bill for 20 minutes in June? The answer is no. This is monthly, and the month ends at the very last day of the month. So if you don't have 20 minutes in that month, you just don't bill a second and see if you guys have any questions about it. All right. Comprehensive care plan. So Medicare has what they said, comprehensive care plan is for typically includes these, but not limited to the following, which means that they're opening the door pretty widely for you, but they do want to see something that resembles these things. And what they're asking is your care plan has to have a problem list. It has to have expected outcomes and prognosis, measurable treatment goals, cognitive and functional assessment. Be mindful that a lot of providers, at least when they do yearly, annual physical or wellness, Medicare, welcome to Medicare, they do, CATS ADL assessment, Lawton IADL, mini mental for cognitive. It's all in the chart. You don't necessarily have to repeat it, but you have to somehow take that and tie it into the care plan. Or you can say, see, cognitive assessment from March of 2020. Or you can add something like, mini mental score was this. So make sure that the assessments are there, and it's a big part of the care plan. Don't skip over it. You have to have symptom management. So you want to tell your patient, it's like I think about it more of like a red flags, so for your CHFers, you're going to say, call me if you gain 3 pounds in a day or 5 pounds in a week. So you want to make sure that patient understand how to manage their symptoms instead of going to the ER. So in my mind, I call it red flags. You have to have your plan interventions. So what are you going to do with the patient? You can have a short-term goals and long-term goals. Medical management is always part of your care plan. The new one for 2020 is Medicare wants to see environmental evaluation. And this one, I had a big, a lot of problem just even finding it. There are some environmental evaluations available online, but a lot of them are very specifically done for, let's say, your asthma patients or COPD patients. So environmental, you have to do a little bit more research on that. I have environmental evaluations kind of done and ready, but make sure that somewhere in your care plan you are assessing patients' environment. And you have to pay attention to things like, do you live in a house? Do you have steps? Let's say it's somebody that had a hip replacement, like those things are important. Do you have a walker? Do you have a commode? So environment, it's not necessarily just environmental in terms of, air quality and, fire, but um, a lot of times it ties into their functional status. You have to have a caregiver assessment. This is also new for 2020. So you wanted to ask who is taking care of you, who's your caregiver, and if you can, also talk to the caregiver and assess their, caregiver burden, because a lot of times when caregivers get stressed out, what do? They dial 911. because they just want this patient to go to the ER because they're too tired. So you have to assess that. And then a lot of things you can do as a very good chronic care manager, as to not alleviate, but minimize the caregiver burden and really help patients. And sometimes I've had people who, I mean, just by asking a question, all of a sudden I realized that yes, this patient lives with the wife who everybody thought was a caregiver, but now patients telling me that she is, out of the house at 10 o'clock in the morning, and she goes plays bridge with her friends, and she doesn't come back until 3. So then it's like, whoa, so do you have a caregiver or not? So then you can intervene in asking more questions and seeing maybe this patient will benefit from a personal care provider or maybe adult daycare. So that's an important part too. And then part of your care plan is interaction and coordination with outside resources and practitioners. So basically, all it means is anytime you're having conversation with anybody, the specialist, adult daycare, DME company, anything, you just need to write that. You have to have a space in your care plan about the interaction, and that will suffice. And Medicare always wants you to have scheduled periodic review and when applicable revision of the care plan. So I always say at the very end of your care plan, you can say something like this care plan will be reviewed monthly, um, revised every 3 months or as needed. Next revision date is, what's it in November? January 2021. So that's going to give you more indication as, when it's going to be January, you're going to look at your care plan and say, oh, that's time for my revision. Um, then you can go through everything, maybe call the patient, maybe redo some of the assessments, whatever needs to be done, but make sure that part of your care plan is that line that's going to kind of prompt you to say, to revise it. I know this was a lot and I'm going fast, so let me pause again and see if you guys have any questions. And tell me if I need to go slower. All right. So how to bill for CCM. I do want to tell you that the huge caveat is I'm not a biller. Um, at times I wish I was, and there were some healthcare businesses that I started where I've learned how to do my own billing and coding. And I did that before, kind of in my previous life, but I have not done billing for CCM. I have not done billing for, my patients. My biller does it. So everything that I know is through the biller and through CMS information. So please take what I'm telling you with a grain of salt. You still have to run everything by your biller to make sure that it is legitimate and it's correct. But what I'm telling you is what I know. So before 2020, you could not bill transitional care visits together with CCM. As I told you, Medicare in 2020 said, we understand when people coming out of the hospital, they're way too complex now. So go ahead and bill for your TCM, and you can bill for CCM together. So that's a big new positive change, but you still cannot bill CCM together with home health supervision or hospice supervision or certain end-stage renal disease codes. So again, what it means is if you have a patient who maybe you have referred to hospice, but you're still caring for the patient as a primary care provider, or your nurse working for PCP who is billing for CCM, um, and they choose to bill for hospice care supervision because it's more money than CCM and it's a bit easier to bill. Um, it does not mean that you have to stop your work, and it doesn't mean that you have to discharge patient from CCM. All it means is you cannot bill it together. So what providers do is, let's just say if I have a patient who has home health, maybe they came out of the hospital and they have home health and they're also on their CCM services, I can look and say, I'm going to bill for home health. Home health is only going to be 2 months or maybe a month. I'll bill this month for home health. As soon as home health is out, I'm going to continue to bill for CCM. So again, does not mean that you're discharging patient, does not mean that patient needs to get reconsented. It just means that you are choosing what to bill or what not to bill. If you don't want to bill for home health supervision because maybe you did not talk to the nurse enough, maybe you don't have enough documentation to show why you're billing for home health supervision, well, then bill for CCM. So truly, it's your preference. It doesn't mean that patient needs to be discharged or reconsented again.
I have a quick question. Sometimes
Yes.
for the home health supervision, that's initiated by the hospital and not by the PCP or the specialist. So then I can still bill for CCM since I'm not since the practice is not initiating that home health
So
or
if it doesn't matter who initiated it, so patient came out of the hospital, hospital initiated home health is going to send your primary care doctor, unless you are, I can't see who's speaking, I'm sorry, the
this is
plan
Connie.
of care. Who is this?
This is Connie from New York.
Oh, Hakani. Okay, Hakani.
Yeah.
Um, they're going to send the plan of care, right, for
Okay.
the primary care to sign. And then the nurse is going to call primary care and say, I saw the patient. Are you okay with me calling? Your blood pressure is only over 160. I'm doing this
Mm-hmm.
wound care, PCP talks. For that, they can bill home health supervision, because you don't bill home health supervision just for signing the plan of care. Doesn't matter who initiated it, but the doctor
Mm-hmm.
can decide whether or not they're going to bill home health supervision or CCM.
Okay. Sounds
But
good to
home health supervision, it's a little bit more money. So it depends what
me.
what they want to do.
I have to say, I'm new to the whole CCM
World.
world,
Uh,
and it's like I want to say we have about 2,000 CCM patients.
uh-huh. Eligible,
So
right? Or the ones that you're actually billing
that
for.
we're actually calling. It's like we have a whole team of RNs, LPNs, and some medical assistants who do the calling.
Hmm.
So it's just trying to get a grapple on all these patients is kind of difficult, you know?
Yes.
So
Uh,
and now our company's actually reaching out to Tennessee, so it's going to be even bigger.
okay.
So
All right. Well, let's talk maybe offline, just so I can understand a little bit more about
sure,
what your company is doing, and then I can maybe help you a little bit better, because
sure,
everybody have different needs. But yeah,
yes,
that 2000, it's a lot, and you have to have a very good tracking mechanisms to make sure that
mm,
you, like, who you talk to, when you did, and so you can bill for it appropriately.
okay, thanks.
Sure. S- One sec, my slide is not. There you go. Okay, so basic codes, I'm going to break them down on the next slide. All I want to tell you in this slide is that when you bill, you have to have your form, your HCFA form has to have 2 chronic conditions. So you have to have at least 2 ICD-10 codes. Otherwise, no matter what you bill, it's going to get rejected, because the whole point is you have to have 2 chronic conditions. So patient could have 20 and you can list them all. Well, actually, I think 5 or 7 is maximum on the form. But anyway, you can list them all, but make sure that at least 2 chronic conditions are there, and you bill at the end of each month. So let's just say that patient, this is a common, by the way, question. So you talk to the patient and you did everything and you have your 20 minutes on the 20th. And then patient gets admitted to the hospital on the 21st and doesn't come out until next month. Um, do you want to bill for the 20th, or you want to bill for the last day of the month? The answer is last day of the month, because CCM is for a whole month. And as long as you got your 20 minutes, then you need to bill them at the end of the month. So you should have a spreadsheet or like running list of your patients and how much time you spend, but you provide that list to your billing person once a month, and they should bill it at the last day of the month, even if the patient was admitted to the hospital. Is it a crime if you're going to bill it for different days or the 20th? It's not. It's really not. It's just Medicare prefers that you bill everybody at the end of the month, because it's a monthly service. It's not per day. It's not per occurrence. It's a running total for a whole month. Any questions about that? Because that's a little bit of a tricky. Because we used to billing, you saw a patient, you bill for that day. So this is a little different than your face-to-face encounters. No? Okay. So the nuts and bolts. Code G0506. I know that people are having tough time billing the code. I'm trying to figure out what the issue is. I haven't had a good answer because I know some people are billing it as just face-to-face visit when they consent patient and write a care plan, which is not correct. Not that it's not correct. You can bill for visit, but you could still should bill for G0506, which is a care plan that is done by the provider. And it's $64 and you can bill it once and it's once for life. Like you don't bill it every year. Let's say your patient is within CCM for 3 years. You don't get to bill it once a year. You don't bill it for when you revise it, but once you make it, you bill it. Patient leaves this doctor, goes to another doctor, gets reconsented, another care plan is written, that provider can bill for it. So one care plan per patient per provider. Now, the most used code is 99490, and this is 20 minutes of clinical staff. So clinical staff could be anybody. It doesn't have to be a nurse practitioner or a nurse or a pharmacist. It could be MA, it could be a receptionist, any clinical staff that is directed by the physician or what they call non-physician qualified healthcare professional, which is nurse practitioner or physician assistant, or I told you nurse midwife or clinical nurse specialist. So be careful. I do want to also caveat with that. Some of the third-party businesses come to the doctors and say, we're going to provide CCM and we're going to talk to your patients. We're going to do all that. This is fantastic and great. But if they don't have communication with this provider and they don't meet regularly and they don't document that provider is aware and we meet and we discuss this patient, that Medicare can come back and say, well, no, because the CCM was really designed to help you as a primary care provider to manage your patient. So if you are giving this away to a third party and you have no idea what's going on, then you shouldn't be billing for it. So make sure that you have this communication flow between you and the provider to document and say, yes, we have meetings and we have roundtables and we talk about patients. So 20 minutes, it's $42. Remember that each MAC has their own fee schedule. So it varies within few dollars, per different jurisdictions. But, like in Maryland, it's MAC, oh my gosh, I forgot, just escaped me, but it's $42 for 20 minutes. So what did Medicare do in 2020? They said, well, we realized that in 2019, we had only 20 minutes and then we had 60 minutes. And it's not fair because, a lot of providers actually wrote to Medicare and said, well, what do you mean? Like 20 minutes is not enough. What if we spend 40 minutes or 50 minutes? We can't bill for 60, but you're only telling us to bill for 20. So Medicare said, okay, we're going to give you an extra code and it's G2058. And this is the second time and even third time that you can bill for the 20 minutes. So basically, if you talk to the patient, you did whatever you did. Now, I don't mean to say talk because it's not, it's not always conversation. It's not always telephone calls, but you spent altogether, let's say 50 minutes. It's not 60, but it's 50. You should bill 99490 for the first 20 and then G2058 for the second 20. So you're billing for 40 because you can't bill for 50. Or you can bill G2058 twice, and that's going to be 60 minutes. So let's say you spend 60 minutes care coordinating the patient, you bill 99490, G2058, and G2058. So that together for an hour comes up to $118. 99491 is the code that only healthcare provider can bill. So if it's a doctor or nurse practitioner or physician assistant that spent 30 minutes in that month managing that patient on and off the phone, getting stuff, talking to patient, ordering stuff, but it's me, nurse practitioner doing it, not the staff, then I can bill 99491. It's 30 minutes and it's $84. So Alexi and Sana, like that's what you should be billing if you're spending 30 minutes. But if you're spending more, you can, you can bill as the non-provider if you're spending more time. But if you spend half an hour, then I would bill this. The 99487 is the older code. And remember I told you it was either 20 minutes or 60 minutes. So this is the 60-minute. This is for complex CCM services where the clinical staff required, they spend 60 minutes with the patient. And as you can see, 99487 is $93. So let's go back for a second. If we do 99490 and then G2058 times 2, it comes to $118. So this is a little better to bill than complex care management. And also for complex, Medicare is a little tricky. They're saying, if it's complex, then you have to document kind of like why was it complex and what kind of decisions did you have to make, and not just spending time with the patient. So this is the older code, and I know some providers still just use that, and some billers actually prefer that because they think it's easier. But again, I'm not a biller, but unless your patient was super complex and you spend 60 minutes, I would bill those, 3 codes.
Hey, Rita, quick question actually.
Yeah.
Would you, for new practitioners, would you recommend they work with specialist medical coding billers to kind of address this complexity?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always, if you remember when I started it, I said, caveat is I'm not a biller. I'm only telling you what I know from all the reading that I've done with Medicare, talking to my biller, talking to providers who talk to their biller. But I can tell you that if you talk to 3 billers, you're going to have 3 different answers. So it's very important to find somebody that understands CCM, and there are very few of them. And I'm trying to find, by the way, Ken, maybe we can work on that together, to find somebody who is really specialized to come and give us a more view. But I've had some billers who like just basically denied. They told their provider, like, I'm not billing for this because I don't think it's correct and I don't think you have enough information documented and I don't want you to get in trouble. And then I had billers, and some billers, they're like accountants. Some accountant will say, I know I'm only signing my name that I prepared the document. You gave me all the information, so it's all on you. And some will say, I'm not doing this for you. This is wrong because you're going to get in trouble. So billers are like that, but absolutely we need to contact the biller. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about the constraints here when it comes to standing up a CCM kind of service. But that's a point well taken. I will certainly look into someone who can speak on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then 99489 is an additional 30 minutes of clinical staff that you can add to the 99487. So really, if you have super, super complex patient and you spend an hour and a half kind of coordinating their care and managing, then you should bill 99487 and 99489. And it comes to like $140 per hour and a half. You have to be very careful to not bill that only for people that just love to talk, because we all have those patients that will just not get you off the phone because they want to tell you everything from head to toe. You have to document why so much time was spent. And I had patients who I remember a patient who spent 4 months in like long-term care and then came home and he had nothing. Water was turned off, he had no gas, electric, no food, obviously no medications, his wheelchair was stolen. It was such a hot mess. I probably spent 3 hours a week trying to get him to be okay so he doesn't get readmitted back into the hospital. It's absolutely fine to bill, but you'll have 1 or 2 patients like that once in a while. It's not often and it's not usual. So I would always say, just because codes exist does not mean that you have to bill them. You have to bill for the work that was being done. And let me advance. For my friends who are trying to break into the CCM business, if you're a nurse or MA or pharmacist who are looking to find a provider who's gonna work with you and give you their, chronically sick patients, so you can manage them. You can tell primary care providers that they can also bill for certain things that a lot of them don't know. So for example, I didn't put any codes or the payment because, again, I'm not a biller and it's not my job, but I just do want to tell you that they can bill for brief communication um, technology, so like telephone calls with the patient. So maybe you're a nurse and you talk to the doctor, they gave you patients, and now you're calling the doctor and saying, look, this patient called me and she gained 2 pounds yesterday, and she ate some crabs. It was Maryland and it's the middle of the summer, and she had some crabs and she probably had too much sodium, and I'm afraid she's gonna decompensate. Can you please call her and see if maybe she needs an extra Lasix, and the doctor calls the patient. That can actually bill for this telephone conversation with the patient, and it's not, it used to be like $2 or $3. It's actually like pretty good, pretty significant amount now. They can also bill for E&M code, so like home visit, but via the video platform. So this doctor or nurse practitioner can call the patient, with the like Zoom-like technology, and talk to the patient and bill for that. And or they can bill for what's called prolonged service, non-face-to-face. And this is if the doctor is going to say, you know what, let me go back to let me look at the chart, let me see what's going on, let me see when I last saw the patient, what do I need to do. Maybe the doctor calls the pharmacy, calls the patient again, get that extra Lasix taken care of, maybe ordering home health because they want a nurse to come in and weigh the patient every day for next few days. And they spent a significant amount of time doing that, they can bill for that service as well. So that could be your a little extra, like a selling point to why how you can help this provider care for their patients, but also get reimbursed for it. Because a lot of times, I'm telling you, they all do it, but they just don't know that they can bill for it. Comprehensive care plan. Let me see, Ken, what time is it? I said I left my watch and now I don't know.
It's 8:46, so we might be nearing
8:46.
the end of time here.
Yeah. I'm not going to go through the care plan. I kind of told you much about it, but the billing, I'm not a biller, so I have some information here. We can, talk about that later. Quickly, as I told you, in 2020, principal care management. Here it is. I need to fix the slide. I said primary. Medicare said, we understand that there are some specialists or even PCPs who have patients that maybe have just one chronic condition. Again, hard to believe, but let's say it's true. Medicare said, okay, well, then you can bill for code G2064, which is 30 minutes that you as a provider spent with the patient, or you can bill for G2065, which is 30 minutes of your clinical staff, and that's $40. So as you can see, it's a little bit more time that you have to spend for the same money, but their care plan is very different. It's way more basic. It's just a disease kind of management care plan. And if you are, as a primary care provider, maybe has a patient with just one condition, then you can go ahead and do the principal care management code and not do the CCM. And with that, my friends, I am done. I am very eager to hear your questions, comments, feedback. I would really appreciate it. And let me stop sharing because otherwise I can't see everybody. All right.
Hey, Arena. I had a question direct message to me. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I had a question direct message to me. So I think there was a question. The question was sort of around the ways of communicating with the patients. So what were some of the kind of enablements that are required? Is it video? Is it phone? Can you do it through email even sometimes? Those kinds of formats.
Yep. Everything, including email, is very important because Medicare has very specifically said you need to have something more than just telephone calls. So having an email, it looks like they prefer that. But what I can tell you is remember that it's non-face-to-face. So it doesn't have to be this month. You can revise your care plan and you can look through everything and reconcile your medications and maybe mail patient information about their CHF, and you spend 20 minutes, you can bill for it. So some people kind of automatically think that just because it's not face-to-face that it has to be always telephonically or video. But like you said, email works, mailing them information works, and you don't have to spend 20 minutes talking to a patient in order for you to bill for them. But any way of communication works. Does that make sense and answer your question?
I think
Again,
so. I haven't heard
you're
anything
muted.
differently.
Okay.
Can
All
you
right.
just repeat that one more time? That you don't have to actually have a phone conversation. You can email or, like you said, just send
Yep.
them information. But how am I billing for that? I thought you couldn't bill if you didn't actually speak with them.
No, so you need to read, Connie, the Medicare requirements for CCM. I'll be more than happy. I'll post them on the Facebook
Sure.
page after that.
Yeah, it'd be great.
They are, you have to have, as I told you, very good template where you can say that I spend this month 7 minutes revising the care plan and 5 minutes gathering information on disease specific disease specific information, and I spend another 3 minutes putting that in the mail, and then you can, like, what is it, and let's say that's 20 minutes. That's fine. What
Okay.
you can say is, you can say I spent 20 minutes um, care coordinating the patient, because that's not sufficient. You have to break it
Yeah,
down and say,
that's not really specific.
what did you do? Right. But it
Yeah.
does not have to be conversations, and it does not even have to be emails, and it's not every month. So
Perfect.
it's
Okay.
nice that you talk to patient. You should.
Yeah.
But there are some programs that I used to work with where you either talk to a patient or you can't bill. This is not one of them.
Okay. That's great, because sometimes we do have patients who, just like anyone else, they have days where they don't want to talk. I
Of
mean,
course. Absolutely.
so this could be in lieu of, they don't want to talk today. Okay, maybe I'll send something to the mail regarding their diabetes or,
Exactly.
yeah, that
Exactly.
sounds great.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
then maybe you can call and leave a message and say, I just want to let you know I'm putting something in the mail for your diabetes. Look for that in a few days. Call me if you like to talk to me after that. And then you can say, left patient voicemail, 2 minutes.
That's
Everything.
great.
People are saying that they even, whenever they're scanning something in a medical record, like they're scanning their discharge summary, they count that as their, because that's part of the care coordination. That's what you are billing. That's what Medicare said
Yeah.
we all do, but we don't bill for it. So bill for it.
Yeah, that was one of my questions too, was like, sometimes we call other doctors, we get reports, we scan
Absolutely.
them into, does that count towards the 20 minutes?
Everything. But you just need to come
Perfect.
up with a template where your nurse is not going to write, sit and actually physically write. I spent 17 minutes. So you need to be like, charting, and like how many minutes, scanning,
Yeah.
how many minutes, information gathering, how many minutes. And then they have to kind of tally everything and say, oh, okay, there was 20 minutes or
Mm-hmm.
40 minutes. You can do 40 minutes and not talk to the patient. I wouldn't do
Perfect.
that all the time, every month for every
Yeah.
patient, but you can if, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Alexi, did you have any questions?
Not really. I know I asked you a ton of questions the other day. So you did say earlier about not being able to bill CCM with home health supervision, hospice, or certain dialysis codes or
Yes.
certain end-stage renal. Okay.
Yes.
So now, if I am billing for CCM on a patient and say they are also seeing an endocrinologist and they're getting dialysis performed, can I bill for CCM?
So I think your biller has to find out if, and I don't know how, but I think they can look into, like, in their platform, if the patient is getting billed for those, the end stage renal disease services. And the other way to find out is you can bill, and then if it gets rejected, you know that you shouldn't you shouldn't bill for that CCM anymore for that patient. But I truly don't know how to find out if somebody is billing for like end stage renal. But if they're seeing specialists, it's fine. As long as specialist is not billing for PCM services, you can bill for CCM.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome, dear. Sana, did you have any questions, or you just turn on your camera?
Yeah, actually, I do have a question. So how do we present this to, like, let's say I'm at a home visit and I want to introduce chronic care management. Like, how do I say this without, you know what I mean?
Of course. What I say is, oh my gosh, Mrs. Johnson, I want to tell you that you're so lucky because Medicare had created this fantastic program, but it's not for everybody. You're lucky because you qualify for it. It would be free program to you because Medicare pays for it, and your secondary insurance will pay the co-pays. Make sure that they have secondary, because if they don't, they end up with the 20%, and they're gonna call you, be like, no, I don't want to pay for this. So you're lucky that you qualify for this wonderful service where I will be able to give you extra layer of support. You can actually have my cell phone number and call me anytime, and I can help to coordinate your care a little better. And because you're part of this fantastic program, would you like to sign up for that and know that you can stop at any time? And the minute you don't feel like it's helpful, you can stop. There is no obligation. And you can do it verbally. Now Medicare says as of 2020, you can do it verbally. But since you're seeing them, I would actually have them sign the consent that very much specify everything that I said, that you'll be responsible for 20%. Medicare is very specific about what they want you to talk to patients about, that they can stop at any time. It's one provider per patient. And then they're responsible for 20%. So as you explained that, have them sign. But I would say you're so lucky that not everybody qualifies, but you qualify. And I want to give you that extra layer of support.
I like that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Arena, would it be helpful to maybe drop the script also in the chat on the Facebook group as well? This might be helpful.
I have a template. I have a template. Yeah, I have a template of consent, but these are just my words. I can absolutely share with the group. But I always say, like, find your own, like, listen to what I'm saying, tailor it, because it might not come out from you as it does from me, because we have different temperaments and your patients might know you better. So take that and tailor it to how you would say it. But yeah, we can craft that.
We have one more question in the chat from Eve. Do you have a specific CCM platform that you prefer?
I don't. There are a few that I looked into. In my opinion, they all are very expensive, because when you're only getting $40 for 20 minutes, and they're charging like $8 per patient after, your biller, and after the the time that you spend, like, I don't want to give third of my money to the platform, so I don't. But any EMR you can use for just create your own templates, and again, I have them, and you can contact me offline, but create your own templates and make your own care plan. That's all you need. You don't really need a platform per se to provide CCM. Great question. But if you know of anybody, share with us of anything. Anything.
We have 2 minutes left. One more question from Yana. Is there a template for the time spent log?
It is, but I created my own, and that's part of my consulting. So if you're interested, you can always contact me, and I will let you know what I have, and you let me know if you want it or not. But you can absolutely just create your own based on what I told you. But I spend a lot of time doing it, so I'll be more than happy to share.
So for the last 2 minutes, I wanted to actually just get a sense from the audience here. If you just want to drop a note in the chat, how far are you along in exploring CCM? Perhaps you can just drop a note and say, just starting, or you already have patients that you're delivering CCM to, you're looking to expand. That would be helpful. That would be tremendous.
Yeah, and few people I have not met, so it would be nice if you guys can just tell us something. And also I want to add to what Ken said. If you can just add to the chat, or please feel free to talk and do your video, but let us know what you're interested in to hear next month, because your time is very valuable, and I don't want to just get everybody together and talk about the same thing or talk about something that you already know. So if there are any particular questions, I would love to do more of a very targeted and thoughtful presentation. And I don't mind doing this one again, but
it does sound like
more
medical coding
in-depth.
and billing is an area of interest.
That's just, it's not me. We have to, I was looking, I found somebody who told me that she knows CCM, she has this huge company, she was very nice, and then she never came to any of the meetings, and I invited her many times. So that was epic fail.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll have plenty of topics to discuss soon. One last thing, Rena, are you willing to? I'm happy to do this, by the way. Share the deck. Some folks have requested this already, but if you want to just drop your email into the chat, I'm happy to share it. If Rena, you're okay with that.
Well, no, I told the group prior to, I don't like to share the deck because information changes with Medicare. Information changes frequently, and I don't want to share something that could be outdated tomorrow, and then you'll use it with my name on it. This is it's an information. It's to plant the seeds and give you enough for you to either research more, or hire a consultant, or start asking more questions. But I don't feel comfortable just giving the part, because I've changed many things over the past few months, and things get added and deleted. So I wouldn't mind doing that again, and it's recorded, so you can obviously always listen to recording later and look at the codes, but I'd rather not share. And code for principal care management. Connie, hold on 1 second. You have it? Again, I don't know why you're breaking up, but let me go back. It's G2064.
All right, it's really
It's for 30 minutes by provider, and G2065, 30 minutes by clinical staff. Kanye, did you get this? Yes, okay, perfect.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Perfect. I think we're at the end of the hour. I also want to just note, if you guys want to drop your emails, that'd be great. We could do let you know the next time another one of these sessions come up. Last time I did a talk on marketing and sales, and Irina obviously did the basics of CCM. We'll probably have a series of these covering a variety of topics. So if you want to drop an email, we'll let you know. Otherwise, we'll see you on the Facebook group and LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for coming. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you, everyone.